Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It is just a beautiful day out today. There's a light dusting of snow in the air, a nice strong wind, a nice cold wind, and it's pretty cold outside. I'm in the greenhouse here now, and it's quite pleasant in here. It's out of the wind and the sun comes out every now and then and kind of warms it up in here. So I'll go out on the bench and we'll pick out a tree to work on today in the bonsai zone. All right, let's head outside, and I gotta pick a tree to work on today. I've got this maple here. The whole top on it died, this top part, but there's a good leader on this side that's going to take over, so I'll just have to let this leader grow and thicken up, and that'll be the new trunk line on this tree. So I could prune these buds back on this one. You can see on this shoot, I've got a long shoot. There's a bud at the tip, two buds down lower, and then another two back here. So I could prune it back. So I think I will. I think I'll start today's work with this, this maple tree. I've got the tree in the greenhouse here, and this tree is a Norway maple. It just started growing in the front garden all by itself from a seed. And I trained it in the ground for many years, probably about 12 years. Then I dug it up and I began training it as a bonsai. This tree has a lot of good features. It has a nice spreading root base that I've been working on over the years. And so that the base of the tree is looking really good. The top of the tree has a lot of the basic branch structure in place. I've just got to get that leader sorted out and start developing the ramification for the canopy. You may notice that around the back of the tree here, there's a new tree growing in this pot. It just grew here all by itself, and it's a birch tree. And today I'll be, removing the birch tree from this pot, giving it its own pot, and starting the pruning process to get this underway as a bonsai. Also in this pot is an eastern white cedar seedling and a white pine seedling. So I've got 4 trees growing in this pot, so we'll try and get them all in their own pots and get them started on their bonsai journey. The Norway maple is very vigorous. You can see there's a new shoot out here. There's a bud up here. There's a bud coming off the trunk here. There's one there. There is a couple out the back here. There's a cluster of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 buds in one spot. There's a couple up here. So it's just bursting with energy and ready to grow this year. Also new for this year, I'm starting to get some cracking on the bark on the trunk here and up here. So that'll be exciting, getting some texture to the bark so it's not just a smooth young looking maple. I'll start today by pruning back these longer shoots. So I'm going to prune this one halfway between the nodes. So I've got, if I cut here, this branch is going to die back to this first set of buds here. So I'll prune right to here, like that. I'm not going to prune my new apex. I'm going to leave that alone. So the second set of buds, there's some strong buds here and a bud at the tip, but nothing really strong below. So I'm just going to take it off here. Around to this branch. Again, these buds back here are really weak. I've got some strong buds here and really strong buds on the tip, so I'll just take the tip off like that. On this branch, there's some weak dormant buds back here. You can see a node. There's some strong buds here, really strong buds here, and then the tip. So I'm going to keep these strong buds and prune about here like that. There's a branch here. I've got strong buds here, strong buds here, and really strong buds at the tip, so I'll take it back to here like that. And then I've got to look at structural flaws. So I've got a pruning scar from last year here. I can take that off, take this one off. I should get my knob cutters for that. So I'll come in with my knob cutters and just remove that center branch that was there. like that. And then I'll get the one over here, being very careful not to prune away the branches, like that. And I'll go around the tree. I've got one here I can take away, like that. I've got one up here, like that. There's a dead branch here I can remove, like that. That was on the leader. There's another one here. I can just break that one off. Take this one back a little further, like that. So there's a branch here. I've got it coming up, and it forks into 3. So I've got to pick my best one. This will be my leader. So I think I'm going to take this inner one off. So I'll take that away, like that. This branch comes up. It's dividing into, there's 4 branches. One is really thick. If this is my leader, this may become the front of the tree. Probably will, somewhere in this direction, probably, you know, here. So I'm not sure I want this one vertical. I'll just take the tip off of it. There's some buds down here that'll develop, so I'll take that off. There's a bud or a shoot growing up straight here on the inside. I'll take that away. Don't need that. There's one growing straight up here that looks pretty funny. I'll take that one away too. Like that. And I think that's got the basic structure cleaned up. There'll be more development on the branches in the future, but you know, this structure is still quite young, so yeah, there'll be many more choices coming in the future. Now I've got to decide about these buds. I'll definitely want to rub this cluster off. There's 4 of them. So here's that cluster of buds, and you can just rub them off with your finger. So I'll just come in and you just rub them off. Right, like that. And that gets rid of the buds. If more develop, then you just rub those off too. Here's a bud here that's on the inside of a curve. I'm going to rub that off. I don't want a branch growing there. There's one low down here, right here. That one I'll have to cut off, this lower one. Like that. I don't want a branch developing there. There's one up here. I already have branches in this area, so I don't want another branch growing in this area. So yeah, we just get rid of those buds. You know, trying to keep this trunk line fairly clean. Okay, I think that's got the trunk cleaned up. Oh, there's a couple up here. Get rid of those. They're right near the apex. Right up here. Just rub those off. Like that, and that's looking good. The maple's pruned up. I'm not going to repot it. It was repotted fairly recently, and this is a big box, so I want it to gain strength again and start growing with vigor. So the next tree I'll work on is this birch tree, and you can see it's getting quite tall. And before I do any pruning on it, I have to think about what do I envision this tree to look like 20 years from now. If I were to grow this tree as a small tree, I would probably prune it off right here. If I want it to be a larger tree, I'd probably prune it off here. If I want it to be a really large bonsai, I would just probably let it grow. So I've got to decide, you know, how big do I want this tree? A birch bonsai can get fairly small leaves, so I could grow this as a sort of small to medium sized bonsai. If I were to prune it off about here, I can always grow the tree larger in future. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pick a new leader, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be up here. So I'm going to take the top of the tree off right here. And I have a bud on the inside here. I'm going to remove this part of the apex. So that'll be my new leader that grows up. I'm going to prune these branches a little shorter, here and here. And the rest I'll just leave to grow. My other two little trees don't need any pruning at all. They'll just get transplanted. I've got the tree on the side bench here in the greenhouse, and it's ready to dig up the birch and the other two seedlings for repotting. So I'm going to try and find a training pot for this birch. I found a couple of pots. These seedlings can go in these clay pots. I don't really care if they crack too much. They're just from the thrift store, a couple of bucks each. And then I've got a plastic pot that I can put the birch in. It's a little bit bigger, and it can stay in that pot for quite a few years. I'm expecting the new seat for my bicycle, my Brooks saddle, to come in any day. The tracking showed it came into Canada, into a city nearby, and being sorted. So I was thinking maybe it's going to come in the mail today. So I'm going to check right now. If it doesn't come today, I'm sure it'll come tomorrow, but let's go have a look. Here's the seat on my old bicycle. I thought it was leather, but it's not. It's just a plastic. And you can see it's, since I've been riding it, it's cracked in several places. I really like riding this bike. It surprised me. It's, I don't know, something about it just feels good to ride this bike. It always brings a smile to my face. All right, so let's go check out the mailbox. Just a typical spring day here in Canada. Snowing and almost sunny at the same time. If my seat doesn't come today, it'll be nightmare on Elm Street. All the streets in my neighborhood are named after trees. There's walnut, ash, oak, elm, as you saw, Cedar Street. So it's kind of cool that I live in a neighborhood with all these tree names as streets. So here's the mailbox. We used to get home delivery, but they stopped that, and now we've got these super mailboxes. And you can get parcels delivered. You can see the parcel boxes down below. So let's see if anything came today. I've got junk mail and more junk mail. Nothing good, I'll just lock it back up. Oh well, disappointing. But hopefully tomorrow we'll get something. Well, the new saddle will have to wait another day. It's still snowing out here today. Let's get back in the greenhouse and get back to work. This birch tree was started in this bonsai soil, so it should have a fairly fine fibrous root system. We don't just want to yank the tree out. It might break a lot of those important surface roots off. So I'll start by raking out the surface soil here, trying to expose the roots and kind of trying to remove the tree safely from the pot, minimizing any damage to those roots. All right, I can see lots of roots in here. I think that's probably why this tree grew so quickly, is that, you know, it's got good soil in here, it's watered and fertilized daily, and yeah, it's just really taken off. You know, birch trees are fairly quick growers. They're another kind of pioneer tree. They grow in places where a lot of trees just won't grow. Now, let's see if there's any wiggle to this tree. There is. It has quite a root system. I can feel it goes right down deep into the pot, and it may be quite difficult to remove it without taking everything out of the pot. I wonder. The maple feels really solid in the pot too, so. But I don't want to repot the maple this year. I want it to gain more strength. But this birch, I definitely want to get out. There's a few buds down low on the trunk here, and I'm just going to rub them off because I don't want to develop those anyway. And I've been handling the tree, and you know, there, now I've got something I can firmly grasp here to kind of pull a bit. Wow. You can see these roots go way into the pot. This tree has kind of become one with this soil. So that's a look at how well established this tree is in the pot. It is really well established. Lots of fine roots too, which is good, because I'm sure I'll be cutting a lot of these thicker ones off, or cutting them back anyway. So I'm just going to untangle it as much as I can, and maybe I will have to pull the maple up and just see how root bound it is. I don't think it'll be root bound, because it hasn't been in this pot all that long, maybe 2 years, and it hasn't been growing with a lot of vigor, so I don't think the roots will have filled this pot yet. So it's getting a little looser. This is just not going to be easy to separate. I never imagined the roots would be this large in here. But then I guess the top of the tree was getting quite large too. So, you know, usually the roots mimic the top of the tree. If you've got a lot of growth on the top, that means you get a lot of growth on the bottom. The root system and the tree always have to stay in balance. I'm going to try pulling some of these thicker roots out. If they break, it's no problem, because I'll be pruning them off shorter anyway. That one came out really nicely. I'll try this one now. That one came out okay. It broke part of it, but it kept a lot of good root intact. Now this one. Wow, just tough in here. Had to kind of break that one. There's one going in towards the maple here. There we go. A few smaller ones here. Now, I'm not really seeing a big taproot on this. There is one that goes down, but that's about it. Let me see if I can pull it out. There we go. So there was the taproot on it. Kind of not that big a taproot. There's a lot of good kind of radial roots to work with. So that's good. I'm going to take the birch outside to the wash station and clean off all the roots, and then we'll start our root pruning. All right, here I go. That looks good. It's time to start the root pruning on the birch tree. So the first thing I'll do is I'll remove that taproot. And I think I'll use my knob cutters to get in there. I'll just roughly cut it off at first, if I can, there. And then I'll come in and prune it flush with the base of the root base here, like that. So my taproot is now removed, and I'm left with more of these radial roots. Now they're a little long. You can see they don't even fit in the pot, so I want to prune those back. And you can see this one, it kind of doesn't really come out radial. It kind of comes out and then takes a curve around, so I'll want it to be radial eventually. It subdivides down here too. So I'm definitely going to need to prune it back to here for now. So here I go. And this one to here. Just shortening it. So now I've got a root kind of growing out the bottom here. I'll cut off that part that crosses the trunk, keeping my radial part of it, and that'll probably get removed in the future as the other roots gain strength. This one starts off kind of nice, and then it dives down into the soil, so I'm going to reduce the length of that to there. This one, it's quite long. it has some subdividing here, but not really great. So I'm going to prune it off to here, like that. These tips I'll just take back, and this one also. And I think that's about all I can do for now. I don't have a lot of roots growing this direction because this tree was growing in the corner of the pot. So once it gets in its own pot, roots will probably start going out in that direction, and you know, get more of a radial root base on it. But I think that's all I should do for now. I think just take this one back a bit. I think that's enough root that the tree will survive and grow nicely in spring. We reduced the top of the tree also, so kind of kept the roots in the top of the tree in balance. So let's get it planted now. I've got screens in the bottom of the pot, so I'll add some soil now. Being careful not to breathe that dust in. And I'll plant the tree. I think I'll make this the front right here. If this is the front, I've got to prune these roots back a little bit more. So I'll do that. I'll just take a bit more off them, like that. Well, that's good. The height looks about right in the pot. So I'll fill it in now. All right. More soil going in. There's not a lot of roots on this tree to work the soil in around the roots, so I can put a lot of soil on top here and then just kind of probably even just use my hands like this, work it in around the roots. That seems to do it. The tree's stable in the pot. Add a bit more soil here. Mount it up around the tree just to make sure it's safely planted. The soil I'm using for this birch tree is a used soil, but it's a really good high quality used soil. It's a mixture of pumice, lava rock, pine bark, turfus, and perlite. So kind of a bit of everything in here. So I'll water the tree now. And hopefully this tree will grow really well. I'll keep it here in the greenhouse and until the weather warms up a bit more before I put it out on the bench, just to keep those roots protected until it warms up a bit more. Stops snowing in April, late April. Boy, when's spring gonna come? So that's draining really nicely, and that's planted that birch tree. My birch seedling is off to a good start. If it survives this process, those roots will get even more established and hopefully more fine and radial, and it'll be on its way to becoming a nice bonsai tree. The next two trees to be potted is this little white pine and this cedar. So let's do that now. So again, I'll try and get these little trees out of the pot without disturbing the roots too much on them. I'm sure these root systems won't be as large as the birch tree there. These are just little tiny trees. Boy, we're getting some heavy snow outside now. I'll show you that. So here's what late April looks like in Ontario, Canada here. Boy, oh boy. See, the poor trees are still getting snowed on out in the bench here. Yeah, lots of snow. Okay, better get back inside. So all these little cedar seedlings I'm going to plant in my avatar grove, my cedar forest. And I'm going to plant them at the back to kind of create another row of depth in the forest. So I'll have, you know, the biggest trees up front. And at the back of the planting, I'll have this row of little cedars. And they won't stay little for too long. They'll start to grow, and, you know, all the trees will grow equally. They'll all sort of start maturing, but there'll always be that difference in size. The ones at the back will always be, you know, smaller and skinnier. So, yeah, that's my plan for these little seedlings. Now this one does have a fairly deep root. I'm trying to comb out these roots, but it's in there quite deeply. I know in past I've just kind of pulled and it's all mixed in with the maple roots. And okay, I've dug down quite deeply. I'm going to kind of reach down and pull as much of the root out as I can. So here I go. There I go. So that got most of the root, actually. You can see that. Yeah, looks pretty good. So that'll go in one of these little pots here. And the next tree I want to get out is this white pine. This is a native white pine. It just, a little seed that flew down from that tree I was showing you earlier in the snow just a second ago in our snowstorm. It just falls from the cones up in the tree and lands in my bonsai pots, and I get all these little white pine seedlings growing, which is kind of nice. It's like getting free bonsai trees. Now, I don't know how far down the root will go on this one. Well, it's certainly not a shallow root system, that's for sure. So again, I've dug down fairly deeply. I'm going to grab the root and the tree and pull and try and get as much root as possible. So here I go. There I go. So I got a lot of these surface roots. There was one deep root in here that I pulled off, but I think that's enough to get the tree underway. I'll finish up now by giving them both some water. Good drainage in those pots. And that should do it. I've got all three trees ready now to grow for the summer. The maple with its new leader. I've got my two new little trees ready to grow. So this little cedar here, I won't put it into that forest probably until it gets a little bigger, so probably next year. It's a little young to be growing in there. I mean, I could put it in there, but it's better to have its own pot and develop a better root system before I get it kind of in the forest. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is my native red maple. I had another nicer, smaller red maple that I was developing over a lot of years, but it died. It died over the winter the one year. I'm not sure why. These things happen. So this one's doing really well. I'll show you the buds on the tree. Here's a look at the tree. Here's the base. And then we'll come up. And you can see the leaves are just about coming out on it. I'll come in now and just clean up the structure of the tree. So I want to prune this long branch back to here. This one it's dead, that branch, so I'm going to remove it here. This tall one here I can reduce back to here. This one to here. This one's dead, so I'll remove it. There's another shoot I can reduce back here, like that. And this one's dead, so I'll remove it, like that. And then I got a long one here, I'll reduce it back to here. The only thing I left to do is I've got some buds growing on the trunk, so I'll have to rub those off. There's a little bud on the inside here. I'll just get rid of it with my finger and There's one growing near this other one. I'm going to leave that one because I don't know which branch I want, that one or this one. I'll let this one develop and then I can choose which branch I like better. That's all the bonsai work for today on this windy, snowy, strange kind of weather day. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.